Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We just did a little bit of a recruiting update, made sure you guys had all the information before we fully jump into the season and leave recruiting a little bit on the back burner for the time being. But let's get into my top 12 teams as we go into week 1. I'm going to do 12 instead of 10 just to make it a little bit more interesting with the 12 team playoff coming up this year, but it's definitely going to be a crazy year and let's get into this because the 12 that I have, it's a very, very weird year with a ton of different things moving all over the place. So this first four is definitely a tough group to put together. I'll just leave it at that for the time being. But at number 12, I do have LSU. This is one of those teams that is incredibly hard to get a beat on because you know what you saw last year. It was a really bad offense and a really bad defense and incredible offense. But at the end of the day, going into this year, so much stuff has changed. The talent on defense is still, they still have some very talented players, no doubt about it. They are LSU. They made some coaching changes that could be the big time difference. Maybe Garrett Nussmeier is able to step in for Jaden Daniels and not miss too much of a beat offensively. But at the end of the day, this is a very hard team to get a beat on. I thought about slotting Tennessee here. I thought about slotting a number of other teams here, but I decided on LSU, and I think maybe this weekend it makes me look dumb, but I'll roll with LSU for the time being. Missouri, I do have a number 11, another Tiger team. They're coming off the best year they've had since 2009. Brady Cook, Luther Burden, the entire wide receiver group is back. A very, very talented group, no doubt about that. The defense is the difference maker. If they can put it together the way they did last year on defense, they're going to be right back where they want to be, which is in that college football playoff conversation and be a very, very dangerous team this upcoming year. But at the end of the day, I have some pretty substantial worries about that defense and how they're going to be able to walk into this year and be really dominant. So definitely going to be interesting to watch, but I do have them at 11 for the time being. I have Michigan at number 10. Frankly, I could move this up a couple of slots and feel totally fine with it. But at the end of the day, I think when you walk in with questions at quarterback, there's only so high I can put you. So they're coming off a national title, tons of changes to the personnel, especially on the offense, or the offensive line in particular, and the quarterback position. So it's going to be incredible to watch this team develop. And frankly, I think they're going to be another team that's going to be very different this week than they are in week 14. But it's going to come down to that run game, and it's going to be downright elite. When you have Donovan Edwards, when you have Khalil Mullings, and then you have Alex Orji that can do just incredible stuff on the ground, you're going to be able to run the ball. If they're able to do that really effectively and this defense plays the way that they seem to be able to play, no doubt about it, I think this is going to be a really interesting team throughout the year and maybe a team that kind of spoils a lot of Ohio State's fans' hopes and makes the playoff once again. So it's going to be really interesting to watch this team develop throughout the year, but as of right now, I'd put them as the 10th best team in the country. Utah, I have at number 9. Cam Rising being healthy totally changes this team. I think everyone knows that, and it's one of those things that when he's on the field, they win a lot of football games, and when he's not, they don't, plain and simple. So definitely going to be a huge, huge thing for them this upcoming year. And I think when you have Kyle Whittingham and company, you know exactly what's going to happen. They're going to win a lot of games. They're going to play really consistent football, and they're not going to hand you anything. So I feel pretty good about this one. I think Utah could even be a little bit higher on this list, very much like this team, at least going into the year. And then we'll see what the changes in the Big 12 have for them. So definitely will be an interesting team to watch. But at number 8, I do have Notre Dame. I think I have them just a touch below where the AP poll has them right now. They obviously have that huge game at A&M this upcoming week, so could very easily get bumped up a couple of spots at the end of the week. But quarterback, they got an upgrade. A wide receiver, they upgraded hugely. The defense is going to be better than it was a year ago, and it was darn good a year ago. So it's going to be really awesome to watch this team week 1, and I think they really do need that win. They need to show that they are absolutely a team that can make it, that can possibly run the table, get into the playoff as the 5 seed, and be a dangerous team in that playoff. But if they lose week 1, that all that momentum that they've built up will totally come to an end. I can promise you that. Penn State, I have at number 7. They are playing West Virginia this upcoming weekend, and it's going to be really interesting to watch this team. Penn State is walking in with quite a few unknowns. Another team that is going to be very different in Week 14 than they are in Week 1, and I think this game could be really interesting because of that. But the story of the year is going to be the coordinators. If they work out, then this team could be a playoff team, be dangerous in the Big Ten, and possibly make some noise for the national title. If they don't hit, then they're going to have a little bit of a problem on their hands, and they're going to look roughly the way they did last year. So definitely going to be a huge year for them, and those coordinating hires are going to be the difference makers. I can promise you that. Ole Miss I have at number 6. They are the most hyped team coming into this year, no doubt about it. A ton of talent that's coming in from the portal, and it's a team that I feel really, really good about. I think Jackson Dart has a Heisman-type season in him and definitely has weapons just all over the field. It's going to be incredible to watch this offense go to work, and I think this defense, with all of the improvements that they made pretty much across that defense, they're going to be able to do enough. I can promise you that. So it's going to be really, really fun to watch this team. They start with Furman this week, so should be a layup before they get into real SEC play. So it'll be fun to watch that team, but at number 5, I do have Alabama. I don't think they're going to fall off a cliff the same way some other people do, but it'll be interesting to watch. The Kalen DeBoer era starts on Saturday at 3:30 against Western Kentucky, and this team's got to be ready to go. There's no two ways about that. They have to be ready to roll pretty much from the get-go, because week 2, you play a team in USF that gave you so much trouble a year ago, and then you head up to Wisconsin to play a game, which is never going to be easy, and then you play Georgia. So they don't necessarily have a big-time runway. They have to come out swinging, and guys like Xavier Brown on that defense have to show out pretty much in week 1 and then continue on from there. So we'll definitely be one of those teams that I'm watching very closely on Saturday to just see how far along they are. Moving up to the top 4, it's going to be the top 4 that you've had across pretty much every single poll. I'm going to have Texas at number 4, Colorado State coming up this weekend. Injuries at running back are definitely something to watch, but I think they have plenty of talent behind them, and I think when you have a third-year starter in Quinn Ewers, you feel pretty confident just putting more on his plate and saying he's going to be able to handle it. So I think they're going to be more than fine. Quinn Ewers does have to elevate his game, no two ways about that. He has not hit the ceiling that a lot of people had for him, and it's really high, and we'll get into that actually tomorrow, but it'll be really interesting to watch this guy play, and I think this team overall is going to be one of the most fascinating throughout the year. Oregon, the other team that is moving into another power conference, is going to be awesome to watch. They're playing Idaho this week, so should be able to put up about 70 points and just walk out of there with an easy win. But Dylan Gabriel coming in is really, really interesting, because I don't necessarily think it's an upgrade from Bo Nix, but it's not too much of a downgrade by any means. It's definitely someone that can run that offense very effectively the same way Bo Nix did, and I think that offense is going to be downright elite. Now, does Oregon have the ability to make the steps on defense? And they made huge steps personnel-wise, but can they make the steps on the field to win all those tight games? Will be an interesting thing to watch. But going into the season, this is a hard team not to like. Ohio State might have the most talented roster top to bottom in the entire country. It might be one of the most talented rosters I have ever seen in my life, if I'm being totally honest. I think that defense is going to be the best in the country this upcoming year. The portal guys they brought in were absolutely huge, and more than anything else, the guys that could be wearing an NFL logo on their chest right now that decided to come back are more than huge. So it's going to be incredible to watch this team, but they know exactly what they have to do this year. It's win a national title. Anything less is going to be a disappointment, and they have set that standard. So I'm going to hold them to it. It's going to be really, really interesting to watch this, but they do have a little bit of a runway to start the season with Akron and a couple other easy-ish games to get Will Howard going a little bit. But at the end of the day, this team is just absolutely ridiculous, and I expect them to be very much in the conversation deep into this season. And then Georgia. They start this week, obviously, with Clemson in Atlanta, and this is the best team in the country to me. It's not the most talented, as I just talked about Ohio State being the most talented, but when you have the gap at quarterback that Georgia does to Ohio State, I think I have to give him the nod. I think Carson Beck is the best quarterback in the country, and I think he's going to be able to lead this ridiculous offense this entire year at a very, very high clip. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in that Clemson game. I think it's going to tell us a lot about what this Georgia team is, especially with some of the running back troubles they have, which we'll get into tomorrow, when we'll break down this entire game. But at the end of the day, they got to be ready to go, and I have not seen a Kirby Smart team that was not ready to go. So I feel pretty confident that they're going to be all pretty much just chomping at the bit by the time that game kicks off at noon on Saturday. And I do think they're the number 1 team going in. That could change pretty quickly if some things go awry on Saturday. But at the end of the day, those top 12 teams are not easy to put together. That 12 through about 8 or 9 is a very interesting group that is going to be shifting around quite a bit this upcoming season. But at the end of the day, that'll do it for this edition of the GSMC College Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It does make a huge difference for us. Also, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all of the social pages for all of the content and updates you could possibly need. We have really incredible people doing awesome work across every single sport you could want. So anything you need in the world of sports, come on over to GSMC and we have you totally covered. But thank you once again for listening, and I will see you tomorrow for some breakdowns of week 1.